Hello, 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 everybody. Carson Herline here. We got my good friend Anthony Brister with us today with Brister Law Firm, and we have a lot of good things to talk about. Usually on this podcast, we're always talking about money and self-directing, controlling, unlocking money. But today we're going to talk a little bit more about asset protection, which is something I'm not super, super well versed in, which is why I brought somebody else in who is. And I'm excited today because we're going to talk about things that I think everyone needs to know about, everyone should learn more about, but we're not taught it. And even I don't have great avenues to learn this stuff. So I'm excited to learn from you too today, Anthony. So to start here today, let's give a quick little 2-minute intro of you. Where are you calling in from? How'd you start your business? Where are you coming from?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Carson. So I'm based out of Houston, Texas. I work with clients kind of all over the US. And really, my focus is cradle to grave services for entrepreneurs, high net worth individuals. Really, those people who want to focus on protecting what they built, growing it, and then also passing down the legacy to their family. We're really family first based, using the family, getting families involved. I'm an attorney. I've got a master's in tax law. My firm really is cradle to grave. So anything from starting a business all the way to passing it down or selling it and everything in between. So we help you with the business structuring, estate planning, tax preparation, bookkeeping, really focus on advisory and relationship based. We want to be proactive with tax strategy, asset protection, not reactive. And most people are kind of wait till it's too late, especially with asset protection and tax strategy. And that's where people get it wrong a lot of the times.
Interesting. So you being a tax attorney, say you were working with me, a real estate investor, who I'm actively doing deals, I'm actively doing cost segregation studies and bonus appreciating these properties. What type of tax preparation are you doing for people like me?
Yeah, so it's not even just the tax preparation, right? I mean, most CPAs can do the tax preparation. I will say when you're doing cost segs and real estate, you want to make sure that they are familiar with real estate and maybe even a real estate investor themselves. But I think where I provide more value is the integration. Most of the time, you go to your CPA and they're just filing your taxes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you're talking to them about real estate, they're like, oh, you might want to form an LLC, but go talk to your attorney, right? And so you're kind of bouncing around. Your CPA is preparing your taxes, your attorney might be doing your legal structure, but who's talking to you about, the on the front end, what buying this property is going to do to your taxes, or what buying two properties, right? And grouping it, choosing different things like that and being strategic. I think that's where we provide the more value. And so we're talking to you not after you buy the deal and pay
Yeah.
a lot of money to do cost seg, to you before, figure out what the benefits are, how much you need to do, and what you're doing. Does it make sense? And how does that affect your taxes? And then also how to protect what you're putting in to that deal too.
Hmm. Really interesting way you put it. Because I have a tax strategist that helps me. I have a CPA that files for me. I have bookkeepers that manage things for me, and I feel like I have a pretty decent setup. I feel like I know everything kind of going on and working quarterly to make sure I'm setting myself up to pay the right amount of taxes. So is that kind of the same idea of what you're referring to, what you do then?
Yeah, it's again being proactive. You might have a really good tax team, but it's being part of a team. I like to look at my
Hmm.
clients as being the CEO, family
Yeah.
business, and we're here to pick up the details, make sure what we implement is actually being maintained. You don't just pay for a plan and then just let it go to wayside, right? With anything you do, whether it's fitness, finances, whatever you're doing, so part of that is also that ongoing coaching. But as long as you're being proactive, you're talking regularly to the advisor, that's where you're going to come out ahead.
Dude, that's freaking awesome. That's really, really cool you're doing that. I mean, why did you choose to go down that avenue after school?
So, I grew up, uh, my mother passed away when I was 10, and, she was single mother, and I grew up seeing how I didn't want to live my life growing up. We were very poor. After she passed away, my grandparents raised me kind of middle class. Um, they did do some contracting, things like that, but no one really talked about money. It was your typical middle class. Money's taboo. So I got out there, thought, I want to learn about money. So I took finance in college. I learned a little bit, but they don't really teach you personal finance. So after graduating, I just kept looking at what do these rich people, what are they doing? I realized that they're using the laws, tax law in their favor. They're hiring advisors. So I said, I'm going to go to law school, learn what the wealthy are doing, and then learn how to apply that, not only for myself, but for everyday workers, people who are generally building wealth, being first generation. So that's kind of why I chose that route.
Yeah. That's really, really cool. How many years of schooling did you go to?
Too many. So let's see.
That's what I was thinking.
I played I played football in college. I went 3.5 years. So I graduated a little bit early from college. Um, part MBA. I didn't finish that. Then I went out and worked for a little bit, and then I went to law school for 3.5 years. So
Wow.
typically, law school is 3 years, but I also got a master's in tax law um, to focus again using tax to build wealth and create wealth. So altogether, I guess 7 years plus traditional elementary.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's a good amount of
I got
school, man.
back.
So,
I'm constantly learning.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
and after you did all that, how quickly afterwards did you start your business?
So I went and worked for a boutique firm, law firm, kind of did stuff very similar to me. Uh, it was performance based. I felt like, things weren't getting held up on my end. But, I felt like I was performing, didn't really feel like end of the bargain was being upheld on the other end. So I just said, you know what, I'm young, I don't have any kids. My wife has a job right now. I'm gonna take that risk. I always wanted to work for myself anyways. So really it was around year 3 when I went out on my own. Just February 2023. So, I'm going on 2 years now. But
Mm,
I just took that risk and said, if I fail, I can always go back and get another job. But the relationships I've built and knowing that this is what I wanted to do, I couldn't just go get another job after I was already doing what I loved. It was just the relationship wasn't the best to work for.
yeah. Interesting. So, what has it like been? What has it been now? Or what I'm trying to say, how has it been now that you've been an entrepreneur the past couple of years? What has that been like starting your own business? And what are the challenges you've experienced, the fun things you've done? Like how has that been?
So, I'm always been a firm believer of flexibility of time. And, I'm pretty hard-headed. I hated showing up to work 8 to 5 and just being there for having to be there. So one of the biggest benefits of being an entrepreneur is having control over my schedule, right? Not that I don't work hard and put in hours, but I do have control over that time. If I want to go do something or prioritize my health, prioritize traveling with my family, I've got that control. Some struggles. obviously. I've been hiring some people, so learning how to manage people, right? Building, scaling a team
Yeah.
versus just in law school, right? They teach you to just grind and grind and grind. So, I've been grinding and doing this stuff myself, but teaching people, implementing the team, and then scaling, that has been a struggle, kind of learning that process too. The working on the
Yeah.
business rather than in the business.
Yeah, you're an expert in tax law, but you kind of have to switch to becoming an expert in being a business owner and teach your team to be good at tax law.
Yep,
It's
yep, exactly. And I got to
yeah,
see what I love about what I do is so many business. But again, it is different working on the business than actually kind of implementing it and doing it.
yeah, very different. There's different skills you need to know, different things to be a part of. And I bring up this whole question of what it's like being an entrepreneur in your late 20s, right?
So I just turned 30 in September, so I pass on to the
Okay.
next decade. But
Okay, there you go. So just hit 30. So but starting a business in your late 20s, being a young entrepreneur in today's world, like there's a lot of amazing things that come from that, but there's also some really hard things and things you have to learn. But all those things make you better, stronger, and help you build the business you want to build. And that's what I think a lot of people that listen to my channel is in that same environment of, hey, I want to start a business. I'm young. How do I do it? What are the problems I should expect to have? How can I get through those? And whatever that business is, how can I go and scale it? From a young age without 50 years of experience? Or how can I avoid the financial path my parents and family went down because I want to have something better than that. And for me, that means building a business. And so those are the conversations I like to have. And it seems like you're on track and doing that in a crazy environment, being in tax law. I'm sure it's a very competitive environment too. And so it's really cool to have someone like you on here to talk about what that's been like. So in terms of building the business in the law space, there's thousands of law firms, obviously. What do you guys feel like has made you guys different or helped you guys start to build this, being kind of new into it?
well, on law side, most people don't deal with tax, and there's a running joke in law school. People went to law school because they were bad at math. So most lawyers stay away from tax law in general. But being a lawyer, I think I'm a little bit more risk adverse than your CPA. CPAs generally are no, 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 reactive. In law school, they teach you to think a little bit differently. So I think, that's one way I stand out is we focus on tax law and asset protection and incorporate the tax and the law together under one roof. And then two, the financial industry as a whole is old. A lot of old heads out there. There's not enough young people coming into our industries. So I'm incorporating technology, systems, processes. We're really focusing on bringing technology to and stop having systems that are 30 years old that aren't really serving our clients anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think that's really really cool, and we're gonna need people like you, and the fact that you are starting this young. The one thing I love about entrepreneurs starting at a young age is like imagine when you are in your 30s and 40s, like you're going to be so beyond your years and you're going to be so experienced. And, for you, you'll be 35 and be one of the most experienced tax attorneys for the next generation. And it's because you're starting young. And so that's what I love about starting young is
Yeah.
you're going to experience, you have nothing to lose. You can experience risk. You can experience, loss and you can keep moving along. You have the energy to do so, the motivation to do so, and you're going to be 10 times better when you're in your later years of your life. And so I love that you're starting this now. So really to kind of sum everything up, how do you feel like now? Well, actually, not even some things up. Kind of switch direction. Most people I work with are people who work the 9 to 5. They want to save money. They want to invest in real estate. What type of asset protection do those people need? What should they be setting themselves up with to start?
Yeah, well, I think, first thing when I think about asset protection, I ask kind of two questions first, and I think about it at different levels, right? Um, don't compare yourself with the guy on TikTok or the girl on TikTok. Where are you at right now? So, what do we have
Mm,
at risk? And then, what is your day-to-day risk like? What kind of lifestyle as an attorney or, even yourself to selling products, giving financial advice, putting yourself out on the internet, you might have more risk than the person who lives at home with their parents, works a 9 to 5 job. That's it, right? So there's different levels of risk. And then we look at what are we doing and how much do we have, right? So I think for the starting out, the biggest thing is building your foundation. So protecting your savings and your checkings account. Typically, that's not going to be saved. I do recommend having some kind of savings, but also cash value life insurance is a great place to store. Um, Most states, not California, but most states protect your cash value in some sort of sense. Then also retirement accounts, right? Um, every state, your 401k is going to give some kind of protection. IRAs, it's a state by state determination, but typically there are some protections there. Insurance, just your regular old car insurance, right? And umbrella insurance and business insurance. These are all low cost types of things. And then your personal residence. So places like Texas, Florida have unlimited homestead protection. But even, some more plaintiff friendly states like California still give you some type of equity in your home. So that's really a good starting place. Build up that foundation. And then we can start thinking about LLCs, irrevocable trust, all of that stuff, right? But that's really level one is that foundational step.
yeah, that's good. I it all builds off of itself. So let's say someone has that first foundation set up, then what should they do to level up?
Yeah, so level two is you start investing, building assets. So what kind of assets are we investing? If you're just going to be your cookie cutter guy and you're just going to invest in the stock market, that you leave it in the stock market, you probably want the majority of that in your retirement account if we're talking asset protection. But if you want to have a business or invest in real estate, that's when we start thinking about LLCs. So I like to think of an LLC as a bucket of risk. That's all it
Hmm.
is. And it's there to segregate risk either from leaking out to you personally, or there's special types of LLCs that protect yourself from or protect your assets from yourself. So level two really is for have an operational business. Let's put that in an LLC, or if we've got an asset that carries risk, like real estate, then let's put an LLC around it to prevent anything from happening at that asset level to getting to our other assets.
Okay, so LLC being set up for asset protection and risk mitigation makes sense. How does adding an LLC affect your taxes? So you're a W-2 earner. How does that
So
affect it?
an LLC, this is a great and a very common misconception. An LLC does not save you taxes. All an LLC is a state formed entity, so it's there for asset protection. Um, I like to look at active versus passive. So
Okay.
once you start going into active versus passive, we look at tax elections. But
Okay.
for passive stuff, we want to probably just keep the LLC level. And if you're going to be able to deduct something with an LLC, you're going to be able to deduct it without it. It's just really there for that asset protection to limit
Mm,
liability coming in
mm.
personal self.
Understood, makes sense. So we talked about building that foundation. And then level one is is mitigating risk amongst your operating companies, your investments. Then what? After that, what are you looking to protect?
Yeah, so I think, on top, I would just add if you're forming an LLC, you want it to be in the state where you're performing business or where your property is located, if we're talking about real estate. Um, so after that, that's when we start thinking about, you hear Wyoming LLCs, right? Or Delaware LLCs. Those are special types of LLCs that give you what I call outside protection. And this is the level up. So this is our holding company. We form Wyoming, Delaware LLCs, charging order protection entities to prevent your personal negligence and the risks that you carry from hurting your assets. So we use operational LLCs to hold assets in the state that they're formed, and then we use the charging order protection entities to protect our assets from ourselves. These are states that just have special laws that prevent, if you get in a lawsuit, from someone coming in and taking over your assets, where most states don't provide that protection.
Hmm. So that's why Wyoming holding companies are mainly set up in Wyoming. And then you're saying though that holding company would own and manage all of the other active companies, and those companies would be set up in the states you're doing business.
So I use the Wyomings really for passive entities, right? So we want that
Okay.
on your passive side. When you have an active business, you're going to have, right? So we want that in the state where you're performing those services to give you that protection. So Wyoming or the COPE entities really work for the passive stuff. If you're active, you're going to get sued, get named in a lawsuit, right? If I give someone bad tax advice, they're going to sue me personally. If I
Hmm.
have a Wyoming LLC owning S corp, they're still going to sue me and sue the business. So
Mm,
it's really there for the passive side.
mm, gotcha. Okay. No, that makes sense. I believe that's actually how my structure is set up. So now we've gone down this rabbit hole. Let's kind of come back a second and come back to what everyone here is listening to this and want to understand better just the basics of all this. How would you say those that want to learn about asset protection? What should they do? Where should they go? Where can they find you?
Yeah. Well, I think too, and I'll add just one more thing is there is
Yeah.
another level, but this is the 1%, right? So
Okay.
99% of you need an irrevocable trust. An irrevocable trust are for people who are 20, 30 million net worth. These do provide asset protection, but again, we need to move through that scale. So I just wanted to say that irrevocable trust, annual gifting, that's kind of level 4, and you need to really be past that threshold to make sense. Because there's other ways to do it that are more cost effective. Now, as far as starting out, there's so much information. I'll say best place to start is probably TikTok. I'm just kidding. Don't start there. Uh, your own research, right? Uh, there are plenty of attorneys. I really like Mark Kohler. He's a really great CPA attorney. Gives out a lot of free content. Uh, it's so valuable, but don't be afraid again to do your own research and then hire a team, right? If you're just starting out, anyone can form an LLC, but you might pay an attorney 1,000, 1,500 bucks to talk about how to use it and prevent not only, the setup stuff, but when you're paying an attorney, you're also paying for all that time that they spent with other clients, seeing the mistakes, things like that. So
Mm,
you really have that conversation with that professional to make sure you don't know what you don't know. So I think that's
mm.
probably the best place. If you want to reach out to us, you can go to bristertaxlaw.com. We have a free discovery call. and then a comprehensive consult. Also, I put out a lot of content on social media, YouTube. Um, just, if you're going to follow content, make sure that they probably have a license on the line and that it's coming from a credible source. They don't have to be an attorney or a CPA, but some kind of credentials, whether it's enrolled agent, um, but if it's just someone on TikTok telling you to go buy a G-Wagon because it's going to save you money on taxes, do a little bit of due diligence, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. And those of you watching, if you're looking to set up LLCs, learn how to structure buying rental properties, definitely give Anthony a call. I'm going to definitely talk to him as well about stuff I'm doing. So I appreciate you guys who listen to this faithfully. I always like to end with a couple of different things, but I personally, I'll tell you what I do. I am with what's called sweet, sour, and service. I don't know if you've heard that before. But I do it with my family whenever we're at dinner. We talk about a sweet of the week, a sour of the week, and maybe how we served someone else. We don't have to maybe do all three, but maybe give me one highlight of the past week to end off of. Anything.
Okay. Well, I wanted to maybe I can add a sweet and service, I think, if that's
Yeah. What do
okay.
you got?
Um,
Yeah.
my my sweet is that, I've been focusing on scaling and growing. I've hired 6 people from the start of the year to now. Um, to me, that's a huge success, and I
Yeah.
hit my revenue target for the year. So, I've got a month left. Hit that. Was kind of worried I wasn't going to be able to. So, really, really proud of myself. So
Hmm.
really excited that I've been consistent about that. And then for service, this is really important to me. Every year around Christmas, we do something for the DePelchin kids. It's a foster care center here in Houston.
Hmm.
And we provide Christmas presents for kids in foster care. It's important to me because before my mother passed away, one Christmas, we weren't going to have Christmas, but we won a radio show sweepstakes that she entered over the phone. And the only reason why we had Christmas was because of this. So I grew up saying, hey, if I could give back to a kid at least once, um, you know, they'll at least be able to get that experience. So to me, it's very important. We do it every single year, providing Christmas presents for these foster kids.
Man. Some great answers. Holy cow. I got to live up to that, dude. That's awesome. I think a lot of people, we don't talk about our goals. We don't talk about how much money we make because I think people think it's braggish or selfish. I don't. We should celebrate each other's wins. We should celebrate each other's happiness and successes. So that's freaking awesome, man. You hit your revenue goal. You're hiring in your business. You're scaling. I think that's awesome. So congrats on that. That's fantastic. My suite is way sillier than yours. My suite was this past weekend. I went to Chicago and went to a Chicago Bears game with my brothers and my dad. And we were a big Chicago Bears family, and every year we try and go to a game. And so it's just so fun to go to the city once a year, go to Soldier Field, watch a football game, and be together with the boys in my family. So that was my suite. Not as fun as yours, but it was great. So that's a suite for me. I'll go with you and do service as well. My wife found something on TikTok and she did it, and we've been doing it this past little bit. It's interesting. Basically, we built these like little goodie bags of like snacks, socks, toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorants, like a bunch of like necessities. And we have small little bags in our car. And whenever we see a homeless person on the street, we hand them out. And instead of giving them a $20 bill or, a gift card somewhere, we give them this actual useful bag. And it's just in our car. We can always give it to them and we're prepared. And so I'm looking forward to be able to handing those out more this Christmas season. So that's pretty cool for us. But I appreciate all you guys listening here. Thank you, Anthony, for being vulnerable, talking about your business, giving us advice. This has been fantastic. So thank you. And I'm definitely going to have you back on here again at some point, man. So I appreciate it.